Tap. All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Monday evening. Another special edition of KFTV Live. CP The Fanchise in the building. Special guest with me today, representing Queens, New York, man. Queens get the money. Representing Behold the Green and Gold, because when we told the people we was going to have him on the show, the 757 was definitely excited to hear about that. And most importantly, representing the New York Knicks, man. Once a Knick, always a Knick. Throw a number 9 in the chat for our guy, Kylo Quinn, a.k.a. KOQ. On today's show, man, we are going to dish on the Knicks versus Pacers series and also talk to Kyle about his illustrious Knicks career, man. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel as we slowly approach game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, man.
Yes, sir.
That's an interesting, very interesting ring to it, man. How you feeling, man? Welcome to KnicksFanTV, man.
I appreciate you having me on, man. This is an honor and a pleasure. You know, big time, like you said, it got a nice ring to it. Perfect time of the year. Knicks in the conference finals. Excited to be here. Look forward to chatting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And as I said, you know, when it comes to your Knick career and your homegrown roots, the whole Norfolk State connection, just us sharing that HBCU connection, man. I've been following your journey since the beginning, and very proud of you. Congratulations on retirement and the next phase of your career, man.
I appreciate it, man. You know, not the easiest thing to do, not the easiest thing to admit that you want to shut it down, but definitely did it at the right time, and my university welcomed me back with open arms. I love the 757 area. Hampton Roads is like home, and really feels good to be back.
Yeah, for sure, man. And as we talk about these present-day Knicks, what was your reaction, man, when they shut down the Celtics in Game 6 last Friday and advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals? How did you react to that?
It was definitely exciting, you know, being a true New Yorker, born and raised there. You're always happy for the organization, but knowing where the Knicks were, all the moves they made, all the management changes, you're just happy for the organization. You're happy for ownership. You're happy for the city. So I think that, you know, it's kind of bittersweet, right? Because you're like, man, I wish I was a part of it. But, you know, at the end of the day, you think about the overall goodness of the situation, and that team is doing something big for the city. All those players are stepping into their rightful places in their career, led by a young star in Jalen Brunson. And you couldn't be more happy for a young guy like that who's carving himself out in history, essentially, with his play.
Yeah, for sure, man. And big up to Captain Clutch, the captain of the New York Knicks. Was there any aspect of the series that, you know, really impressed you over the other in their win over the Celtics?
You know, I think the most impressive was, you know, the player Cat. You know what I'm saying? I think that Cat has done some good things when he's in Minnesota, but it may be overlooked when you're not winning at this level. You know, for him to step up and play bully ball when they went Jalen Brown on him and they doing all this switching and stuff, for him to stay true to his game. Of course, you know, we know he could play inside and out, staying true to his game, but also being that bully, that enforcer that we need, along with Mitchell Robinson. But I think Cat was the difference and will be the difference, you know, moving forward into this deep playoff run that we're doing.
Did you remember any times going up against him?
Oh, Cat, when he was in Minnesota, he was always a young star, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of caught him when he was younger, so
Right.
he was trying to figure himself out, but his talent level was always there at a high level. I think his game has matured. I think he's figured out how to dominate, when to take a deep three, when to go down and you know, get some bully ball going on. So he has a perfect balance right now for this team, and you know, I'm excited for what he has in this next series versus Myles Turner, who I also played with, and I know Myles is no short of one of the best centers in the NBA at the moment, true rim protector. And it'll be interesting to see those two go battle it out, you know, 2 7-footers with, you know, a lot of talent.
Yeah, no question about it, man. And, you know, you mentioned the captain, Jalen Brunson. He's been spearheading this thing. Look, Julius Randle deserves a lot of credit for coming in with Tom Thibodeau and Leon Rose and kind of jump-starting this new era, Knicks, if you will. But the captain, Jalen Brunson, has taken this team to new heights. You know, 2-time All-Star, All-NBA, the clutch player of the year. What's impressed you the most about Cap's game, man?
You know, I think the most impressive, and I heard an announcer, can't remember the announcer, just shine light on how no matter how he starts the game, something about that third quarter, and he comes out and it's like he just hits a switch and it's like, which is one of the hardest things to do as a professional athlete, is forget about, your last shot or your last play. It's easy to say, harder to do. He like turns the page in the second half. He turns it to a different player. You can see his confidence through the roof, and he's taking big shots. He's making them, and hats off to him, because I know that's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, no question about it. And I also think his poise and his leadership, especially under this microscope, which you've been in, you've seen it, and you went through some tumultuous times here just as an organization, but his ability to just stay poised under the bright lights, man, I don't think that can go understated.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially at that height too, when you got to rely on getting around bigger defenders. Teams are throwing different schemes at him, different players at him. The nature of the game now, everybody's switching, but they know the importance of guarding him. So he's seeing a different matchup almost every time down. So I think that him being able to stay poised, get to his spots, hit shots, and be relied on in the Garden, or in that Detroit series, you know, says a lot to his character. True winner, you look back, college champion, not the easiest thing to do.
True.
So he's definitely he has it in him. And one of the most inspirational is him doing it right there, right beside his dad. And I think that's pretty cool, that dynamic they got going on.
Yeah, 100%, man. Once again, we're talking to Kylo Quinn. Salute to everybody in the chat. I'm seeing some KOQs. Gino in the chat says, Kylo Q, miss this dude. So salute to Gino in the chat. Richie Purcell, KO, what up? Everybody throw a number 9 in the chat to salute our guy, Kylo Quinn, man. So, Kyle, you're getting a lot of love in the chat, man. Getting a lot of love in the chat. I
appreciate it, man. The city's always showed me love, and I show it right back. You know, I came to work every day. I gave everything I had, and, the outcome wasn't always the best. It wasn't what we looked for, but I played my role to my best ability, and I think that the city and the fans understood that. And shout out to guys like Gino who understand that and show the love, and I appreciate it.
And that's where the love comes from, because with the Knicks, you can't fool a Knicks fan, as you know. As a New Yorker, you can't fool them. You got to bring your lunch pail to work, your pail to work every day, and put in that work. And whether you win or you lose, they will salute you for that, no matter how long you've been with the team, man.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that the fans definitely show that. Not a crowd that you could fake out, like you said. And I think that my job was easy once the job was assigned to me.
Yeah, and I think a guy who is really earning his stripes here with this team on the heels of what was a controversial trade, Mikal Bridges, man, 5 picks, and he had a very up and down season, really trying to find his role, find his groove. But, man, right now he's leading the playoffs with 11 steals. He's been coming up big. He came up big in that Boston series with a lot of gritty defensive stops. Right. He had some fourth quarter clutch buckets. What's been your impressions of Mikal Bridges this playoffs, man?
I go down the same path as I said with Jalen Brunson. These guys have championship DNA. We joke about the Nova Knicks or the New York Wildcats or whatever it is, but these guys have won individually, together at a high level. Winning a national championship in college is no easy task, and they played for a legendary coach who I'm sure demanded nothing but the best in Jay Wright. So these guys have been coached well since, as we know, as college. These guys went their different ways, and now they're bringing it back together. Once you learn the game the right way, it'll shine in the most, brightest way when it's called on. So maybe he had to figure it out. Maybe he had to find his role, but, championship plays are going to be made, and he's making them. And he's definitely stepping up to the challenge. And I'm sure he heard the little whispers of him, struggling and things like that. So he's leaning into his true character, his role. And as you can see, it's taken us to places that we haven't seen in a while, at least in conference finals.
Yeah. And I also think, a big reason for them reaching this point is a guy who you just missed him, but he became a rookie the year after you left. So I got to block Nets monster, Mitchell Robinson, man. I mean, did you see that play when he smothered the Celtics all over the perimeter and then shut down Jalen Brown to end the possession, snatch the ball from him?
In the far corner, close to
the far corner. Oh my God!
Oh man, that showed a lot. As a big man, that felt good. Like guys could get out there and defend as well. He's not one of those guys where you gotta hide him, and the game is evolving. You can't find a place for him. Defending a guy like that at that level, Jalen Brown. In a game that intense, and you guarding him like you're supposed to be out there, says a lot to his work ethic, especially dealing with the injuries. But as a big man, I was happy for that play because it sparked the Knicks to really do some things. It was just I could feel the energy through the TV. And Mitchell Robinson, one of the better second round picks, to date, especially in that organization. You always give it up. You always give an extra little love to a New York Knicks draft pick. And I think that when they make the graphic of how this team was assembled, it looks good, and I'm sure it feels good from the organization standpoint of that they picked this guy at the beginning. He's still with us, and he's showing up in the times we need him most.
Yeah, in a big spot and healthy, and he's looking better and better each game. So big up to the Block Ness Monster, man, Mitchell Robinson.
The Block Ness Monster.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, I gave him that nickname when he first came on the scene, man.
I like that.
Yeah, when they got him, and we follow this team from Vegas Summer League, so we watching these draft picks to see what they about to become. And he was doing that. He's blocking at 3-pointers. Blocking people at the rim. He was going crazy. So that's why I was like, yo, that's the Block Ness Monster right there, man. So
Mitchell Robinson is definitely special, especially in today's NBA. He's definitely special.
Yeah, for sure. So, they accomplished this and make it to the Eastern Conference Finals first time in 25 years. But they got to get past a ferocious Pacer offense, scrappy defense, and a deep team. Let's starting with Haliburton, man. Like, What do you think, just from a defensive standpoint? How do they? You can't shut a guy like that down, right? But what do they need to do to kind of just disrupt things with Haliburton, man?
I think the biggest thing is maybe not let him get into a groove. Listen, I'm not telling you how to beat the Indiana Pacers. I'm no coach.
Right.
I'm just there from the outside. I just think that disruption, not letting him get comfortable, is probably the biggest thing. I think that us limiting his ability to just dance and set up for other people. His game looks a little weird. I know that. I like Tyrese Haliburton a lot. But when he gets comfortable, he's one of the most dangerous players in the NBA. He's shown that. And he had a slow start to this season, but he's picked it up. And obviously this team goes as far as he goes. So disrupting him, making it tough. It's the playoffs. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. I can't really speak from experience, but I'm sure everything is much slower, attention to detail, and you don't want nobody to be as comfortable as they were in the regular season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and a lot has been made about this Pacer pace, their Pacer play, very breakneck speed, and from your playing days, like, what were some of the things that your teams would try to do when you're going up against a team that's playing super fast and up tempo? What were some of the things that you would try to do?
Pace, try to control the pace. Everybody flying up and down the court like wildmen. A lot of opportunities come out of that pace. Shots go up, a lot of offensive rebound opportunities. You wear a team down over time, and then your offense probably clicks a little bit better. You could go to your counters a little bit better. When you work on that pace, that separates yourself from the other team, because now they're playing like a guessing game. It's like chess, It's like, who's going to make the right move at the right time and get the flow going and kind of get the ball rolling on their side. So the Pacers, they definitely use their bench. They have a deep bench. They have a championship experience with Siakam. They have a rim protector. They got good people coming off the bench. Obi Toppin, a former Knick. So they have some good pieces over there. And their pace, I'm sure, is something to worry about, because, that's what they're driving. And Tyrese Haliburton being the head of the snake is dangerous.
I also think, Myles Turner has killed the Knicks over his career. And in these playoffs, man, he's averaging 16.6 rebounds, shooting I think either 45 or 48% from three. Well, Karl Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson, those guys are going to draw that assignment. What do you know? You played with them, you practice against them. What makes Myles Turner dangerous, man?
I think Myles Turner is very dangerous because he knows how to still be a traditional big as he stretches the floor. When I say that, he will go after every block shot at the rim. He doesn't care about getting dunked on, which doesn't happen much, but he protects the rim, but also you have to worry about him when he stretches the floor offensively. And it's untraditional for a big man because, now you're on the perimeter. Your weak side is different and things like that. So I'm sure Tibbs has a scheme. It's the playoffs, like I said, so everything is locked in. But Myles Turner is definitely one of those players you have to watch out for, because sneaky. He could get you 24, 25, if you kind of like leave him as the second or third option on your depth chart. On your scouting report. He's a really, really good player, borderline all-star, in my opinion. Should have been an all-star at some point in his career, just how consistent he has been. But, I'm not in the voting polls, but Myles Turner is definitely one of those players where, you have to watch out for. I just think that, we'll be all right, though. We'll be all right. With Cat, Mitchell Robinson, I think we'll be all right against Myles, but it's definitely one of those players you don't want them to get comfortable.
Yeah, no question about it. Because this isn't, last series against the Celtics, you had injured Kristaps Porzingis. His conditioning wasn't right. Whatever he was dealing with, Al Horford, not the same player, so they didn't really have to deal with that deep threat
Right.
from the center position compared to what they were supposed to be. But now it's going to get a little bit realer with Myles Turner. So this is going to be a little bit different matchup. But what I was impressed with, especially with the Knicks in their Game 4 and Game 6 wins, as that Celtics series progressed, it just seemed like their defense was more on a string. Their communication was tight. Their rotations were tight. They were very decisive in what they wanted to do. In this case, wanted to switch on a lot of possessions. So to me, that's what it's going to take, especially against this Pacers pace. Their defense is going to have to be locked in and solid.
Oh yeah, for sure. And who plays a big part of our defense that I didn't really pay attention to until the playoffs? OG Anunoby.
OG.
Like his size, he could guard 1 through 5. He's strong enough to, defend the paint, be a presence like an old school big man was, that clogged up the middle. In this new day and age, he's one of those guys that could disrupt a lot of things. And I think that his play will be big. I hope him and Siakam don't X each other out, because we do need his defensive presence to be all over the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe even step on, guard Haliburton a little bit just to disrupt that, give him a different look, be a little more physical with him. I'm going to tell you who my matchup is. And I'm not looking at a matchup.
Sure.
But I think that the thing I'm worried about is TJ McConnell.
I knew you was going to say that. Yeah.
Or Jalen Brunson. Depending on how the refs, I don't want it to tip towards, his feisty defense picking up 94 feet is rewarded and not controlled by fouls, and I'm not asking for fouls.
Yeah.
I know Jalen Brunson's not that type of player. He's good enough to get it done, but I don't want that energy to be fueled, because obviously we know TJ McConnell and Jalen Brunson, 2 different levels of players.
Right.
But that's the matchup that I'm interested to see, because I'm sure he's digging into his Jalen Brunson film, thinks he's going to stop him. We all know. But I just think that doesn't play a huge factor in, wearing Brunson down in this next series that can go as deep as 5, 6, maybe even 7.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And the Pacers, they have a lot of those guards that can do that. And, McConnell, he's pesky. Nebhard, he's a player I really respect. You could expect Haliburton might draw the Brunson assignment here and there. I think Neesmith will be guarding him as well. So they're going to try to wear him down, man. But so far, Cap has withstood a lot of defensive pressure.
Yep. For sure. But, I just heard Aaron Gordon say, how deep you go in the playoffs, you're tired, this, that, and third. So it might be a little different. It's just, I know how good TJ McConnell's defense can be when rewarded. I've seen him in action. I've always had ultimate respect for TJ McConnell when he was with the 76ers. It's just, I don't want that 94 feet stuff to disrupt the flow of what we got going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Aaron Gordon. He he came up limping in that Game 7 with the Nuggets losing to OKC. Tried to gut it out with the grade 2 hamstring strain. I thought that was very admirable. But he talked about the fact that there should be 2-game rests in between these games. What did you make of those comments, just in terms of just players getting the adequate rest?
I think that from a NBA standpoint, have to put on a show. You can't condense the season, right? Everybody wants a shorter season. And it might be tough because you got to sell tickets, you got to do your thing. But I think that if players are asking for a day or 2 more in between games, I think that's something that we could look at, the league can look at. These guys, just as much as you and I are getting ready to watch the game, we're not really getting ready for the game like they are. I didn't realize how fast the games come back to back until I'm really on the other side, just, making, my plans around, it's a game tonight. Got to be a game tonight. These guys are still gearing up for an intense 48-minute game. Some of these guys, rotations condense. So they're playing 10 more minutes than they typically would in the regular season. So I think that's something the league could look at, hope they look at it for the players' health. A lot of guys went down with, like Aaron Gordon said, injuries that are mostly probably from fatigue, hamstrings and things like that, So I think that, a little bit of rest in between games. We'll still be excited. What if we had to wait 24, 48 more hours? Let these guys get the proper rest so they could put on a give their team the best chance to win and they could perform at their peak performance. So, definitely something to look at. Hope the league does, but shout out to all the players, pulling through and speedy recovery for all the guys that had those little knick-knack injuries that may have hindered them from being at their top.
Yeah, true indeed, man. Just a random question on that regard in terms of like the regular season. When in the regular season, the Knicks weren't particularly strong on the second nights of back-to-backs. What was that like from a player's perspective, getting ready for that, both physically, mentally? What was that like playing on the second night of a back-to-back?
I mean, it's tough. It's almost to the point where you get to that second city, you don't even really know where you at. You just kind of like trying to get enough rest and recovery to just get through the pregame so you can go ahead and get it rolling. Sometimes you be in so many cities so fast, you forget your hotel room. If your mind ain't right, your body follows. So with that being said, it's one of the hardest things to do. I remember I was a rookie and a lot of us were struggling. We had a group of rookies, me, myself, Mo Harkless. We had Victor Oladipo, Alfred Payton, a couple guys, young guys. And Jameer Nelson said, the biggest trait you can have is managing travel. We didn't understand what it was at the beginning until we realized, like, yo, you mastered this travel. That's probably better than hitting shots because this is like, this is your wheelhouse. You got to take care of yourself. So it's tough. But when you play in those short rotations and things like that, I'm sure it's only tougher, especially when guys like JB is playing 40 minutes a night. That's 80 minutes in 2 days. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But it can be done, as you can see, but something to look at,
Yeah. And you were in the league when they had the shortened season that one year where you weren't there when they had to do the three back-to-backs?
Next year.
Oh, you came. Okay.
I came in the very next year. So we used to talk about that like, yo, y'all wasn't here when it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, at least can we stay in the same city on that Wednesday game? You know what I'm saying? Don't put me on a plane. We used to talk about it and joke about it a lot. Because that day off after a back-to-back is crucial.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Who and once again, we talking to Kylo Quinn, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Throw some number 9s in the chat, man. We got KOQ in the building. Once a Knick, always a Knick. And if you guys want to talk to Kyle, man, you can hit us up on the KFTV Discord. Salute to all of our Fanchise channel members as well. When you came in as a rookie, man, who was the guy that gave you your welcome to the league moment? Who was the guy that humbled you real quick?
Welcome to the league moment? Wow, that's tough. I think I had a few, man. Eyes were so wide, bro, coming from Norfolk State. I thought I was good, really, really good. I'm in the weight room all summer. Okay, I'll give you the Zach Randolph one.
Yeah, talk about the Zebo experience.
Zach Randolph, we coming down, we playing, Coach Vaughn threw me in the fire. I'm bumping him, just trying to give him a presence. I've seen what he's done against way more athletic, big men, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan out in LA with the Clippers. So I'm just trying to let him know I'm here. And he's running down the court and he's like, we had Al Harrington on our bench. He goes, yo, Al, young fella strong, but he don't know when to use it. I'm thinking in my head like, yeah. He gave me what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Mike Conley comes off a pick and roll. Like my chest still hurts from the way he ducked in. And he didn't duck in to get the ball or score. He just ducked in to let me know, like, this is what I do. No matter what you do, no matter how many weights you've been lifting these last, 6 to 8 months, I'm Zach Randolph and you still a rookie.
Wow.
My whole chest right here was bruised. I went in the back. We looked at the play. I mean, it was tough. It was tough. And I think that was like my welcome. I'm not the bully no more.
Yeah.
Norfolk State. I think that was my most welcome to the league moment. And then the next one I would say is KG. First play of the game had an injury. We had an injury. Coach Vaughn goes, Kyle, I need you to, step in, play the 4. I'm like, perfect. First play's coming to you, Kyle. Get your feet under you, you know what I'm saying? Get you a shot up. We run horns, pick, pop, something that I've done my whole career. He didn't even contest. He just said, that ain't your shot. Some curse words. I hit Jerry West. You know what I'm saying? I felt like the rim move. We came down, scored. We came down, fouled. like 4 possessions, he went right at me. Coach benched me for the rest of the game. He said, "You ain't the first one." I said, "That's crazy, right? I got to figure this NBA thing out, man. If I want to stick around." So,
Oh man.
Zebo and KG,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was probably my two toughest moments. Had me questioning myself for
Oh
sure.
no, I could imagine, man. Those are two legends right there. Zebo was one of my favorite players for sure.
Oh yeah, I love Zebo.
Yeah.
Good dude, but did not played a different type of game on the floor.
Yeah. What he tell DeMarcus Cousins? He was like, "Where I'm from, the bullies get bullied."
Get bullied. Bullies get bullied. And for those people that don't know how fast John Wall was, first time I played a pick and roll with him, I'm trying to show coach I could get up on the pick and roll. I think I tore my ACL in Washington.
Wow.
How fast he just blew past me. Didn't
Yeah.
even do a move. Phew, I said, this is different. This NBA thing is different.
Different.
Yup.
When you were coming out of Norfolk State,
Yep.
did you feel like that the upset on Missouri, do you feel like that boosted your stock, or were you talking to teams prior to that? You know, was your stock already on teams' radar?
We had a little bit of buzz. A couple teams came out and watched me practice that senior year. I think that Missouri game made people say, okay, there's a reason why we can bring him in now. You know, it was like, maybe if one or two people in the organization saw a little bit of pro in me, this was like man, listen, bring him in. You know what I'm saying? Look what he did against the number 2 team in the country. So I think that it definitely helped, but I think we were trucking away at a good senior year. I had a good statistical junior year. And then my senior year was solid. We did a little more winning in the regular season. And then I think that game kind of stamped like he deserves an invite to show us what he can do in our facility. And I think that's what kind of the ball started rolling with, me doing interviews in these different cities, going to different workouts. And that led to me getting invited to all the different combines. I think that, that kind of, started all that good energy around my name pre-draft, and ultimately my name got called. And I think that played a big part. It was good for me and the university.
Yeah, it was, man. And as a former Hampton grad, man, I was happy for you guys because, Hampton had done that. They had accomplished that. I think they were the last one to do it when it was against Iowa State, Jamal Tinsley and Iowa State. So when you guys did it, I was going crazy. And, very memorable, man. Memorable indeed. When those pre-draft workouts, you remember any workouts with notable NBA players?
Oh, my God, yeah. I think I sat next to Quincy Acey on every flight because we were chasing each other. Me and him were kind of slotted at the same, energy big men. He went early in the second round. I went later in the second round. We was chasing him. He was chasing me. I think that, I just talked to him recently. He's an assistant coach at Wichita State. So we busted up and I said, yo, how many times have we sat in the exit row next to each other, going from one city to the next?
Yeah.
So you go, rest in peace to Fab Mello from Syracuse.
Yeah,
we were chasing him. Not a lot of guys are left from that draft. One of the best is Draymond, one of the best. One of the best. He's doing it. He's killing it out there in Golden State. But not a lot of guys left from that draft. I think that, it's hard to put those years together in the NBA, but the most notable for the Knicks fans will be Quincy Acey.
Quincy Acey.
It out. And I would say at least 10 to 12 workouts, city to city, and we knew each other's game very well after all those.
That's dope. That's dope, man. Probably almost remind you of like the AAU scene, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I never played AAU.
Oh, you never did?
Never played AAU. I played 2 years of high school basketball, and that got me to Norfolk State, and then my thing started in Norfolk State.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's dope, man. That summer of 15, when you get traded to the Knicks, what was that call like? What do you remember about that day?
Well, I knew I was okay because I was comfortable already, and I hate to admit I was comfortable, but the Magic already offered me a qualifying offer, so I knew I had another year to continue to prove myself in the NBA, and I didn't have to fight tooth and nail, on that non-guaranteed contract, which I did 3 years on. So that was like a comfort. So when the Knicks had called, and I knew what they were kind of looking for, and I was like, man, I kind of fit. Like the passing big, I hope I did enough last season to kind of show that with a little bit of opportunity, I could kind of fit this triangle, especially if they really pushing it. So when they called, I never, how something is so close to home, you never really see it for yourself. Many times as I had all my friends and family come to Knick games, Nets games, I never thought that New York would be a home for me, and it came at a perfect time. My family, we were we were looking for something to bring us together at the time. I knew I was doing well, and when the Knicks called, I said, "Boom, this is perfect." And had like two or three options, and it was a no brainer just coming
Mm.
back home, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I knew it would be a transition going into an offense that people say wouldn't work, but I mean, I couldn't turn down the offer, and I think that I couldn't turn down the opportunity.
Yeah, no question about it, man. I remember when they picked you up, and everybody thought the same, like, yo, this is a good fit right here. We got a nice
Right,
passing
right,
big
right,
man. And by that time, we had seen you from the tournament in through those Orlando games when the Knicks would be
right.
playing Orlando. So I always thought, like, yeah, man, this is a big pickup with KOQ, man. And so when you got here, obviously there was, different coaches every year and things of that nature. Like, what was that adjustment like? Just kind of just dealing with kind of the organizational instability at the time.
Well, I came from a small market, family-owned organization where things were handled accordingly. Not saying Knicks do it wrong, they do it different. Big market, big city, bright lights, beat writers all in the locker room after game, win, lose, or draw. Media day looked a little different. It was just a lot different for me coming from Orlando. You got to think I come from a small school,
Yeah, right,
a
right.
small market,
Yeah.
and now, we taking, private plane from Westchester to Vegas, and there's more media in Vegas at Summer League. It was just a lot. So I think that it was a learning curve, but also you had to learn, what the Knicks were trying to do that time. So it was a lot all in one year. And I think that I handled it the best way I could. I think winning always helps everything, right? You- but when you start tallying them losses and then you start hearing this, you start hearing that, everybody's on the trading block.
Yeah.
It was a little different for me, trying to navigate all that kind of stuff. You got to think it was me and Mickey Mouse
Right.
out in Disneyland. We was good. We was chilling. We going to Disney, whole team riding out. This was much different, and I think I handled it the best way. I think that the organization, had some great people to help guys navigate New York City. Shout out to the late Chris Bernard, who,
Yeah.
pivotal role in a lot of guys' careers, and you we hate to have seen him gone, but he helped out everybody transitioning in New York. He knew the city, he knew the organization, so a lot of love and respect for him. But it was just different, and first time playing with a true superstar too. So now you got Carmelo Anthony in your locker room, who's a great guy, true superstar, people's person, and it's like, okay, cool. But then you got that dynamic of, you know, you got Phil, you got Melo, you got
Yeah.
KP coming in as the new hottest thing. It's just
Right.
like
Right.
you just trying to set your screens, get some offensive rebounds. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we win, and your plus minus is solid. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot
100%.
to navigate, trying to get to your role. But I did the best I could, and I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah, well said, man. This was a question from Mendoza Tweets from Twitter. He says, the three seasons that you played for the Knicks were some of the not so great seasons record-wise.
Right.
He says, how did you stay engaged or locked into later in the season when playoffs were out of reach and it seemed like there was not much to play for? How did you stay engaged?
I mean, the first things first, this is my job, you know what I'm saying? So I've always treated my job like a job. I handle my business and I approach every game as if it's another opportunity for me to showcase the league, the world, and make my family proud. So it was not really hard for me to be engaged to the very end. I'm playing not only for the name on the back of my jersey, but also the city on the front of my chest, where I'm from, and I hold that very close to my heart. Uh, Pretty easy for a guy like myself that's not being asked to do nothing but play hard and produce in the minutes that you're given. So Mendoza, I think it was easy. You got to ask somebody that it might have been tougher for, but I enjoyed every second, being on the floor in the garden.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I talked to Dotson about that as well, kind of going through, some of those tough years. Was there a favorite teammate that you had going on the road with? Any road stories? Yeah, any road stories you happy to share? So that's family
Man.
friendly and safe, man. What do you think?
Favorite teammate on the road in New York?
Yeah.
Lance Thomas.
Okay.
And I love Lance like a brother. And I think that he was the first person that, did things a little differently. instead of going to the mainstream, Prime 112 in Miami,
You're right.
clawing through different reviews and recommendations to find the best Mediterranean spot in all of, Miami, Florida. So
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is dope. So he opened your eyes to know there's more than just doing the regular things. And I think that he helped my maturity, a lot, able to, navigate the road a little differently, stay out of the way, stay in your zone and have a little downtime, enjoy some good wine, enjoy a good dinner. And I think that people gravitated towards him. And I think that he was one of my favorite teammates because you can always call on him. He was a teammate. He was a man in a room, and he knew how to take lead. He knew how to take charge in situations that ultimately taught some of my ways today.
Yeah, shout out to Lance Thomas, man. Salute to
And
Lance.
LT.
Yeah. And, over the course of those years, we as Knicks fans, we always hopeful, right? We're always thinking every year's our year, especially in the Melo era where we think we have the talent. But there were a lot of different players that came in and out of rotation, and a lot of guys who we thought, man, this guy could be part of the future. Was there a player that you felt like was underrated or didn't get his due in that era, that tenure that you had with the Knicks? Was there a player that you like, yo, he can get buckets, man, or a talented player that didn't really get his just due?
Talented player that didn't get his just due that I played with. I'll give him his respect. Clee Anthony Early.
Okay.
He was one of those players that if a couple years later, he's one of those Swiss Army knives, right? He's a freak athlete. His makeup is crazy. There's not much different than in his body type than some of the guys that's really doing well in the NBA now. He could shoot the ball just good enough to be on the floor. He could rebound. He can defend when motivated. I think that Clee Anthony Early, he worked hard as hell. And I think it was tough. Like I said, you got to give a lot of credit to the draft picks from New York. New York drafted him. It's hard to kind of turn that corner from a college atmosphere to New York City. So I think that he didn't get maybe the opportunity that I may have got, or some of the Victor Oladipos, the Mo Harklesses, the Alfred Paytons, like got in Orlando and smaller markets. But, Clee Anthony Early, I think he's one of them players that maybe a couple years later, maybe a different organization, he could be one of those guys that, Andre Roberson.
Yeah.
Saying long, lanky defender, some of the things that Mikal Bridges is doing now. I'm not saying he's as good as Mikal, but same body type, can switch. And I think that, between him and Langston Galloway might be one of the best shooters that I've seen in workouts. And I mean, he don't need no rim either. So he just letting it go, and he's knocking them down, So you look at guys a guy, what's my man name from Memphis? Bane.
Okay.
Bane, he's out there, he's playing his game in his true role. And you look at guys like that, and you're like, man, he's knocking it down. And Bane's an awesome shooter, but I've seen guys like Langston Galloway that could fill it up as well. So the talent was there. It's hard to put a roster together.
I did like Langston when he was here, man. I thought he could shoot the ball well. He came on the show as well, man. We had a good conversation.
Langston
Galloway.
Langston's good dude.
He's a good dude. And he played for the USA Select team recently. So that was a good honor for him.
And I think his mom or dad went to Norfolk State, so automatic connection.
That's dope.
I like Langston a lot.
Yeah,
good dude. Those are the two players that I always give a lot of credit to in conversations like this.
Yeah. That's cool. I wasn't expecting that. You know one player that Knicks fans really loved during his time. Y'all only played together for like a year. Trey Burke. We used to call him Trey I.
Yeah, I love Trey Burke. Trey Burke is like one of those guards like JB. Like, you impressed that they can still get it off at that size.
Right.
And Trey Burke, I ended up playing with him in Philly too. So I seen him 2 different stops. And Trey Burke, I mean, but once again, one of those winning guys, at Michigan, he wasn't used to losing.
Yeah.
Big time player stepping in, doing his thing. Big time high school player. And I think that Trey Burke was, but we know Trey Burke is nice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I was trying to shine light on
not
guys
underrated.
that maybe that somebody you wouldn't know unless I was here to tell you. Trey Burke is nice.
Yeah.
You may not know Langston is as good as he is because of, the years, you might get caught up in Langston's story, which we all can love and appreciate, more than how good he really is. You know what I'm saying? He came from the G League. He became an opportunity, This,
True.
that, and the third. Team USA. Langston dead nice.
Yeah.
Langston dead nice. You know what I'm saying? So Trey Burke, we know Trey nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What was the Beasley experience like for you, man? What was the walking
Ah,
bucket experience like for you?
Beasley, love Beasley to death. Most interesting man I've ever been in the locker room with, hands down. One thing about Beasley, he is going to be Beasley every single day.
Never
And
not.
I love that form. We shared our lockers were right next to each other. And I always say this about Bees. If Bees was to, have made, max contract, $100 million, guys will openly admit that he's one of the best players they ever had to guard. Because, it gets overshadowed by, oh, Bees, he's a different type of guy. And, you could get into the stories or whatever perspective that you have made. Guys won't just give that to him. Beasley can score at all three levels.
Yeah.
Unorthodox. He's left-handed, which automatically makes him a little tougher to guard. He can post. He can defend. Hands big. Beasley's one of the best players. I've watched teams try to put different people on him, and it don't matter. He plays at his own beat. I think that's why they brought him in. They knew how talented he was. He played for Jeff Hornacek out in Phoenix.
Right.
So familiar face, familiar coach. But Beasley was definitely an experience every single day. To know Bees, you gotta love Bees. And I think that, everyone that knows Bees loves Bees. Your favorite player's favorite player.
Player's favorite
he
player,
really
man.
believes that.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, guys like you and him, y'all kept it fun. Like I said, even though the record didn't reflect it, y'all kept it interesting here, man. And that kept fans engaged and wanting to watch and be hopeful with this team, man. Once again, we're talking to Kylo Quinn. Throw some number 9s in the chat for KOQ. Very, very fun conversation here. Couple more questions here. My guy, Jeff Johnson, is asking, who's your top 5 hoopers from Queens? Do you have a top 5 hoopers list from Queens?
Top 5 hoopers from Queens,
Yeah.
New York. We got so many, and I don't want to leave nobody off,
Yeah.
but, gotta show love. No order, but I gotta show love to Ron Artest. You know what he
Sure.
did with St. John's.
True warrior. That's what we used to call him back in the day.
Yeah,
True warrior.
Kenny Anderson. You know what I'm saying? I think that's somebody you always got to show love to. Out of Left Rack, I believe, Malloy High School. Man. People don't really give enough credit to Mo Harkless, what he's done, in his career, From Southside Jamaica, Queens, did 1 year, 6 months at St. John's.
Yeah.
Get drafted, rather early, top, 20 pick. I think he went 15th. Have an extensive career. Mo Harkless is one of the better guys. Man, it's hard to rank these guys. It's hard. You look back and you like, you got some good players coming out of New York. Sylvan Landisberg, didn't make it to the NBA as far as he probably wanted to, but a high school legend, always got to give him love. I'm just happy to be a part of that crew. Didn't play much in high school, but now that, everything is shaped up, I'm glad that I was able to play my part for the city and be a part of that good crowd of good hoopers, good group of hoopers from Queens, New York.
Yeah, Queens definitely had him, man.
I can't give you a ranking. You ain't going to go down.
You don't
Kylo Quinn's top 5 from Queens. Now I'm in a summertime barbershop argument.
Getting zeeked.
Shout out to all Queens hoopers, man. We got a lot, just to name a few.
Your barber going to say, how you leave out Mason, man? How you leave Mason out your joint, man?
Exactly. Come on.
We got a $5 super chat here from Domestic Lion. Says, big love from Turkey. All right, so he's tapping it from Turkey. He says, yes, he says Knicks and pronounce his team's name for me, so I don't want to botch it. Fenerbahce. He says, Knicks and Fenerbahce fan checking in. Meant a lot having KOQ rep both teams. He's a special legend for me. Salute to you both. So that's from Domestic Lion, Domestic Leon. Checking in, man.
I appreciate that. Shout out to Turkey, man. Shout out to Istanbul. Shout out to Fenerbahce. Metabol host Gadness.
For sure. And Vinsanity, Vince on the Twitter says, Kyle, did you like playing with the Paris Basket? Do you still follow their results?
I do. Paris Basketball was a young, early club. They just came from the second division. I got there, and then the year after I left, I got there, they were first year in the first division. We had an okay season. They got some good ownership. They got a good fan base. I have nothing bad to say about Paris Basketball. those guys have gone into EuroLeague and done some good things. So shout out to their organization growth and wish them nothing but the best. One of the better years I've had in my career outside of the NBA. And I think that, those guys deserve everything coming to that organization.
What was that adjustment like for you, going from the league to different countries? What was that like for you, man?
Well, going to Turkey, that was an experience simply because I got on a plane for longer than I ever got on a plane in my life.
Yeah.
Probably the first time I ever been like nervous, In that long flight, I think it was 12, just say 12 to 14 hours, can't remember. I don't think I slept at all because I was just, it's like I don't even know what
to do
when I land,
Yeah.
So thank God, that team was, one of the best European teams, first class, everything. Some people told me that this is the best that you get overseas, and they weren't lying. Had an NBA caliber level organization from the training staff. They had some ex-NBA players on the team from Jan Vesley. I'm drawing a blank with all these names now. We had Lorenzo Brown, and I'm trying to think of my point guard. I can't remember the point guard. Drawing a blank, my fault, brother. But anyway, they had a lot of high talented players, and I think that it was the best situation I could have jumped in. And Nando De Cola.
Okay, yeah, French.
Yeah,
French.
My fault, brother. Brother. But he had the high level talent, and it wasn't too much from the NBA as far as the preparation. We had an NBA coach, Igor. Coach Igor coached the Phoenix Suns, and he also coached me my rookie year. So it was well ran. It was a transition for sure, but it was a smooth one. Now, this is when things got tricky for me. When I thought I was smarter than my agent, and I was smarter than, I'm going to write my own story. I said, I want to go to a smaller team, travel less, and play domestically. I went from playing 4 games a week to 1 game a week. Imagine losing on a Saturday and you're not playing again till next Saturday.
This is in Turkey.
No, this is the next year. I went to Paris.
This is Paris. Okay.
So going to Turkey was a transition. Now this is even a bigger transition because I think I'm the smartest guy on the planet, right? I'm like, yo, this is what I want to do. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody was like, Kyle, you kind of wilding. I'm like, nah. That was the hardest thing to do, go from playing that many games per week to playing 1 game a week with 2 practices a day. At 32 years old, it was kind of like, whoa, this ain't really for me. You know what I'm saying? I don't see the reason to going into a gym, 2 times a day.
Twice a day to play once a week. That's interesting.
In Europe, the coaches kind of run the organization. Respectfully, that's how they run things. But overseas coach telling me what I need to do is kind of crazy to me. Shout out to the coaches and all that. But that was a transition. And I think that's what kind of ultimately pushed me into like, okay, what's next? For me in basketball. Thank God I was playing the NBA so long. But overseas, the different brand of basketball, respect to all players that do it and have put a career together, is great money, great opportunity for you and your family. But for me, I'm thankful for my path, and overseas was definitely a challenge.
So what direction was your agent trying to steer you in at that time before you chose Paris? Where were they trying to
stay in the EuroLeague, which is the second best league in the world, right? You got the NBA and the EuroLeague. This is where Luka Doncic made his name, EuroLeague. You got those type of players. So yeah, the competition level is super, super high. Where you're like, okay, you're getting ready for a real game. Your motor's still running at the same level. You're playing 4 games a week. Maybe 3 or 4 games a week, domestic and, international in the EuroLeague. So you're still on that same grind. It may look different, but it's the same grind. They were kind of pushing me to stay there. And I'm thinking, okay, since I'm over here, let me just take a seat back and just play for a domestic team. That was the worst thing I could have done because that turned into, you just hanging out in another country, trying to piece these days together in a foreign country. You're missing your family. I just had my beautiful twins. You know what I'm saying? On FaceTime, thank God for that. But that's the only connection. And you got so much downtime. It was just a challenge. And I just think that, if I would have listened to my agent a little bit, wasn't, leading my pack the whole way, I think that maybe I could have played a little longer, but then I was over overseas stuff.
Did it test your humility? Because, you drafted, you're playing in the NBA, this is the big stage, the biggest stage. You're in New York, the biggest stage of the biggest stage, and then now you're in the Paris smaller league. Did that test your humility?
Not one bit. Every step of my path, I enjoyed. I was grateful for it. It brought enjoyment to my family. I didn't do nothing that didn't make sense to me. So if I can make it make sense to myself, my family was on board. I took everything as a blessing. You know, I look at everything as, this is you're here because this is where God wants you to be. So I played long enough. The pandemic kind of hit. Things were rocky. I could have went to training camp. I said, you know what? If this is my time to step away and just take advantage of a couple years overseas, this is my time. I left nothing behind, and I didn't feel like it was a humbling moment. It was an appreciation for the game that a lot of people put careers together in many different ways. So hats off to everybody that pieced it together, and I kind of took that place instead of the humbling.
Yeah, well said, man. And so now your journey takes you back to a place where it sort of started for you, back to the green and gold, man. Behold the green and gold. Shout out to Norfolk State. Everybody throw a 757 in the chat if you are repping VA. Shout out to the Clips, man. I'm a Clips guy. I'm just throwing all my VA references. I missed that chapter in my life. That was a good chapter in my life, man.
New Yorkers, man, VA gets comfortable on you quick.
It does, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like for us, it's like, okay, we slow it down, but you still got enough to keep it moving.
Right.
You can push it home real quick if you want to go there.
Right.
You kind of play into your own beat, especially as a young guy. It's affordable here.
Yeah.
You can kind of do something. You ain't really pop. You ain't broke, but you can make some move. You can make some. I think that Virginia sits on New Yorkers very well.
Very well, man. So, talk about your new role at Norfolk State, how to come about, and what you're going to be doing with the Spartans.
So I took a role here, this last year, and finally kind of announced retirement and tried to line it up with the role. So as the executive director for athletic advancement for the university, I'm just here to help the university turn the page on the new college basketball, or should I say, the new student athlete with NIL, transfer portals, and things like that. I knew it was always going to be a place for me in college sports. I loved my AD, Mr. Marty Miller, who gave me the blueprint, just leading by example. I always wanted to kind of be like that, be something to that nature. He played in MLB. He was our longtime AD at our school for 40 years, treated everybody with care. Everyone had a home here at Norfolk State. So I always aspired to be like him. And when I had the opportunity to, sit down for a second, I always take it as an opportunity because I was able to, when I didn't take training camp offers, I was able to stay home for 3 or 4 months to see what does my life look like. Everybody was trying to figure out COVID. And I said, well, if COVID is this serious, which it was, what does my life look like? And I came down to the school and I sat with the president, the vice president, the former AD, and where did I have a space in the university? They let me be a fly on the wall in some conversations, navigating COVID for student athletes. And I knew that this is something I wanted to do. I've been working at it for years, and I always, chipped away at it, stayed in contact with the university. I've always had tight ties with the basketball program. The assistant coach that got me here is now the head coach. So always was in tune with Norfolk State athletics and HBCU athletics. So I knew I had a space. I just didn't know where. And when I came back last year, I just said, I think this is the time I might shut it down. What does it look like for the university? I reintroduced myself as a 34-year-old young man with two young boys, beautiful family. And I think that they understood where I was at, and we ironed out the details. We looked at some other roles that guys played at other schools, and being here assisting the AD in her plan, I think that this is the best way I could have transitioned from the game. So super grateful for me back in the area. Feels like home. Some people are more excited than others, but at the end of the day, I'm happy the university's in a good space and home feels like home. So
yeah.
Shout out to Norfolk State for that.
That's dope, man. I like that, and I like the way that Michael Vick is there now with the football team, and so you got guys like you and Vic just shining more of a light on our HBCUs and those institutions, and we know academically they're right up there, but from the athletics, it's a nice to have you guys there to really represent and again just shine more light on it. Dion did that with Jackson State, and so Eddie George was doing that as well with Eddie was where was he at Grambling? Where did
Eddie George was at Tennessee State.
Tennessee State, right? He went to he was at TSU. So yeah, hopefully we get to see more of that, man.
You got Deshaun Jackson at the Delaware State.
Yeah,
now.
right.
So I think that some good things is happening in the college sports space. It's a different climate. We got to turn the page. I'm happy that I'm here to help. Mike Vick coming on campus. That's big for the area. I think the AD made a very, 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 very wise choice by choosing him. We win the press conference, we win the area. Got to win games, but it gives enough excitement to the university that we're on the rise. Our leadership and our president is doing great things academically for the university, connecting the community with the university. But we all know athletics is the doorstep to every university, and we're glad that we're taking advantage of that from an athletic standpoint. And we have some winning programs that, can continue to push this athletic department, where it needs to go.
Yeah, there you go, man. To the Discord, let's get a couple rapid fire questions here for KOQ, man. If you want to talk to him, Dave G, go ahead and unmute your mic. Rapid fire.
What's up, CP? How you doing, man?
Good, man. How you doing, bro?
Doing well, brother. Kyle, good to see you, brother. Once a Knick, always a Knick, man. Happy to have you on the show, man. Appreciate you taking my call real quick. Got a quick question for you guys. I thought the Knicks-Boston series was going to be more physical. I thought these rivals were going to get at it a little more. Do you guys feel like that's going to happen in this Indiana series more? I feel like Indiana's a more mentally tough team than Boston was. And do you think the Knicks bench can outlast the Indiana Pacers bench? Appreciate you guys. Knicks in 6, baby. Let's go.
Appreciate it, man.
Well, I definitely think that, this series will be much more physical, considering they play big and they even though they play with pace, they grind it out. With a team that shoots so many threes like the Celtics, I knew it would be a up and down game. The Celtics truly live by the three, die by the three. That's why the margins were so big. So I didn't think it would be more physical. I just think that they will put up a bigger fight in some of them losses, and it's hard to sustain those large leads that they had when you living by the three and dying by the three. I think he came back from 20-point deficits.
20-point deficits. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You got to really play high level and hit a lot of shots to, there's no grinding it out when you shooting at that rate. So I think that this series against Indiana will test our physicality.
Yeah.
And the bench aspect is something to worry about, but this late in the season, if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We can't go man for man because they have a much deeper bench. At least they have shown that this season. And we just hope that, our stars show up and theirs don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this will be physical, just like the Detroit series. We just talked about TJ McConnell and those guys picking Brunson up 94 feet. And look, the stakes are higher. These are two teams trying to get to the NBA Finals and get to that trophy. Indiana being a bridesmaid last year in the East, and the Knicks being a Josh Hart injury away from getting to that stage to be able to fight for the championship. So both teams are going to be scrapping. We know all the storylines and all the familiarity. So I expect it to be a scrappy series. Whether Tibbs goes extended bench, I don't think that adjustment gets determined until maybe later in the series, depending on how the Knicks look. Like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But, I would love to see guys like a Shamet, maybe even a Delon Wright get into this thing, man, just from a defensive standpoint. He's 6'5", has some length there, and Indiana has so many athletes that I'd like to see them go into the bench a little bit, but hey, we'll see how the Knicks.
I think the history of the two teams going at it in the Eastern Conference will make it a little chippier.
Yeah.
Just from a historical standpoint, they haven't matched up in the Eastern Conference Finals in so long, and we all know the historic pictures of Reggie Miller with Spike Lee on the side and all that. So that plays in our head,
True.
So. Dale Davis,
Yeah.
I think somehow, some way that will play a part and it'll make it a little chippier just from the energetic standpoint.
True.
So definitely be a little more physical, especially with a team not shooting as many threes as, the Celtics did.
STG Nick, rapid fire. Let's go.
What's up, guys? What's up,
How
Peo?
you
Big
doing?
fan. Always enjoyed watching you play. Just a quick question. So you played with KP from his rookie season, with Melo, and then after Melo left, when KP made the All-Star team for us, and then now we just played him here in the first round or second round against the Celtics. I was just curious to see how you seen his game transform from his rookie season to where he is now.
I mean, he definitely has transformed his body. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the work he's put in. Just maturing, just knowing his spots, getting to his spots, trusting his game. When you early on they call you the unicorn, that's a big shoes to fill. You know what I'm saying? You're just trying to be your best. He's successful. He's been a pro for so long. Those Europeans are pros for so long, but it has to work in the NBA to be successful. So I think that, his physicality, him doing those type of him playing that way at 7'4", 7'3", however tall he is, I think that there's a lot of credit to be given there. But definitely a journey, definitely an honor to have a first row seat to his growth. And I think that, the player that he is now, I think that he was destined to be from the beginning through his hard work and, his dedication to the game. So we just happy that we had a part of him. And, that first All-Star season, we can always say it was with us.
Tingus Pingus on the Discord. Go ahead, rapid fire. Let's go.
Yes, I have 2 questions for you, Mr. Quinn. First of all, congratulations on your career, of course. So how do you deal with criticism from the national media like Brunson has? Like, you're not a 1A guy, you're too small, you won't be able to get your team to conference finals. And how do you feel about Tibbs and his minutes for his players? It's always comes with Tibbs that he plays them too many minutes. I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Well, Brunson, only person that you could kind of give credit to is him, right? He's the one hearing those things. He's the one that has to deal with it. I'm not a 6-foot guard hitting big shots like he is. I can only say shout out to him. A lot of credit to the work he puts in and, all his training and all his will and hard work. So he has become what we said a lot of people have said he couldn't become, and it's something to be proud of, especially with him wearing our uniform. He's our captain, and we support him. As far as Tibbs in his rotation, this is his identity. He's been doing it for years. Back when you look at those Chicago Bull teams, Joakim Noah playing 44 minutes and Derrick Rose playing upwards of, 40 minutes and, short rotations. Luol Deng, he's OG Anunoby's our new Luol Deng. I've never seen Luol Deng on the bench until he got to the Lakers.
Yeah, right.
Like he's always in the game, So this is his identity. It works. And I think that would you say 8 games away, maybe
8 games.
4 games away, depending on how it goes, from it going the way that he sees it in his plan. So I can have my opinions, but we are somewhere that we haven't been in 25 years, and it's something to be proud of. And I don't question Tibbs at all. He's the coach. He's the leader of that unit. And I think that his team shows up for him because they know how his style is.
I'm going to take 2 more quick ones to the members lounge. Grabba, go ahead and unmute your mic. Grabba.
CPKO is goody.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Look, two quick questions for you, Kyle. One, I'm a big food. I love my food. I'm a little big, but I like to eat. You know what I'm saying? So besides New York, what's your number 1 food city?
Okay.
And number 2, you play with 2 of the coldest. 1-on-1, go get you a bucket. You can't guard me players.
Melo and who else?
Bees and Melo. So in the game 2-11, who you got, Melo or Michael Beasley? Shout out to y'all. Shout out to, everybody in the Discord, everything. I'm going to holler at y'all. Stay up.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Grabba, man.
Appreciate it. First city that comes to mind, you get excited because the food is just so good, is Boston. Good seafood. There's a good restaurant called Daily Catch in the North End. I was always off the plane to the hotel. Boom, I'm right there. Cash only. No reservations can be made.
Yeah.
Small hole in the
wall joint.
And they give you the food in the pan that they cooked it. Crazy. Wow. Daily Catch in the North End. And 1-on-1, Melo. That's tough. I'm going to say this.
Wow.
Giving it to whoever decides to play defense more.
Okay.
It's just buckets, right?
Well,
it depends. Who gets the ball first?
Yeah.
And the way to sway of the game, who wants to play defense more that day?
Let's go.
You're talking about 2 of the best that can get a 1-on-1 bucket. That's hard. One is going into the Hall of Fame, and the other one is just as good if the opportunity was provided. So I'm taking the truce, waving the white flag on that one.
Wow. Interesting one there, man.
That was tough. That was too tough, actually.
All right, we're going to go to the final call of the night. Let's go to the Glockster, man. Cody Glock in the building. Kyle, this is a KFTV fan favorite caller, man. He always holds it down with his calls. Let's go to Brooklyn, man. Cody Glock in the building, man. Cody, how you doing, man?
Yo, what up, CP, man? Yo, whoever thought I would have been talking to Kyle Quinn in the spot?
Yeah, man.
Kyle Quinn is in the spot. I'm outside, feet on land, toes on soil. I got 2 questions for you, my brother. So, boom, I'm a big 2K head, man. Right. And when I used to play with Kyle Quinn on 2K, bucket. Right. Stupid bucket. Stupid. That lineup was a cheat lineup. I had Kristaps, I had Melo, I had Kyle Quinn. It was a bucket. So my first question is, Kyle, right, if I was in the league, I would be averaging probably 50 with myself playing on 2K. Did you ever get on the sticks and get on your own player and just extremely chuck like 50 field goals?
Nothing short of 40 field goals in a game.
Yup.
This is my time. I don't have nobody to tell me what I need to do. I know what I'm doing in 2K. I'm taking auto subs off, and I'm keeping myself in the game, and I'm shooting every time down.
40 points. You ain't even passing it to Melo. Like, nah, I got this.
No, sir. No, sir. I'm trying to get 60 every time.
That's as real as it gets, because 2K the type of game you could spam one play and go off. I used to go off with Kyle Quinn for 50, 60 points. I swear to God. But my second question I got for you, big dog, is like, yo, so, you know, in the league, there's these moments where you retire, you could tell your kids, like, yo, I was in the league, and there was one specific person, like, I remember that night, I gave him that work. Like, I arrived, I gave him that work, and I felt good about it. Mm-hmm. What's that one moment you could think of off the top where you just came, laced them up that night, and gave that one specific person that work? This is KFTV, man. You don't gotta be politically correct.
This is a safe space.
You but.
All right, you know, I think the story that I could tell my kids that I'm very proud of is, I know Cat. We played Minnesota Timberwolves. One night, the front part of a back-to-back, we played him in New York. The next night, he had 50.
Woo.
Joakim Noah sprains his ankle late in the game. Not enough time to recover. I get to start. Let's just say this. I had a good game. Didn't have 50. I was able to finish the game, have a couple hustle plays at the end of the night, and I think that was the first time I really felt the energy from the crowd appreciating me just wearing my hard hat that night and getting us a victory on the home court after a very, very talented Karl Anthony Towns gave us 50 the night before. So I think that's something that I can always hang my hat on. Like, wow, I was a part of that. I had a big part of that. You know, I got the start, and, you know, I'll tell my kids about that later in life.
That's tough, man. Yo, before I end off, this run we on right now, Kyle, bro, you know, especially it's for you, B. It's for all the people that was in the trenches like you, man. Salute, bro. I'm out.
Salute, man. Salute to Cody Glock. And that's a great way to cap off this conversation, man. Great job today, Kyle, man. Definitely
I appreciate
the time, man.
I like this, man. I like this. You got a good thing rolling here. I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Together, different people from different places. You can hear it in their voice.
Yeah, all around the world, man.
And support for the Knicks, you know, nothing feels better than people saying once a Knick, always a Knick, because the organization does a really, really good job making sure that we feel that, the fans. Shout out to the fans for being who they are all the time, showing up, you know, all the time. And I think that, you know, as a former player, it feels good. And I can speak for a lot of former players, and what you guys are doing is much appreciated and makes us feel, you know, real good inside. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, there you go, man. Well, this is the first. Hopefully it won't be the last. But, you know, as I told you opening the show, man, we wish you nothing but the best of success. Best of luck down there with the green and gold, man. And let's go Knicks, man.
All right, Knicks in 6.
Let's go. Kyle O'Quinn, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. You ain't getting this nowhere else. I keep telling you this. Every time I wrap up a fire interview, I tell y'all all the time, you ain't getting this nowhere else. The #1 show for the fans, by the fans. Once again, throw a number 9 in the chat. All right? We had the callers asking KOQ the questions. Shout out to the Glockster. Great questions, very unique questions. Salute to everybody that submitted their questions on Twitter, on YouTube. We got into it, man. We broke down the series a little bit, talked about his career. Shout out to Kyle O'Quinn, man. And like I said, as a Queens native and a Norfolk State graduate, you know, I really appreciated his time here with the Knicks. So I hope you guys appreciated this show, man. Like, share, and subscribe. Salute to everybody down in the 757. Salute to everybody repping Queens. And, of course, salute to Knicks Nation, the #1 fan base in all of sports. I tell y'all that all the time, and it's no joke. It is absolutely no joke. This is real deal. Holyfield. Salute to my franchise channel members in the chat as well. And listen, man, we got a couple of announcements to make. First and foremost, man, shout out to one of our sponsors of today's show, and that is Morgan & Morgan, the largest injury law firm in the country, man. Make sure you guys check them out, forthepeople.com/KFTV, because Morgan & Morgan will fight for you. They have over $25 billion recovered, over 500,000 clients served, and over 1,000 lawyers working for you, man. So if you've been injured, you deserve to be paid. And the best thing about Morgan & Morgan is that their fee is free unless you win. All right, so hey, you contact them. Your fee is free. And hey, if you win, drop us some coins, drop us a super chat or something, and let us know what the verdict is, man. But shout out to our guys at Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's show. Okay, all right, who else we got in the chat here, man? Salute to you guys. Salute to my franchise channel members, Talento, Desmond Drew. Who else we got here? Armand Dutta, Randy Johnson, Flow174, Darren Wilkerson. Salute to you guys. Salute to my guy Darren Herman. Salute to my guys over there at Bain Capital, man. We had a great outing today up at the Ardsley Country Club, man. And it was very much Knick focused. I went to the Silicon Alley Sports Golf and Pickleball outing and was attending there. Got a chance to chop it up with some fellow Knicks fans, spreading a good KFTV word. My guy Darren Herman really repping KFTV heavy out in Bain Capital, man. So shout out to him and his support. Shout out to all of our new viewers who came from that event. #1 show for the fans, by the fans. Jamaica Queens 22, always in here, man. We definitely. Cedro, shout out to Cedro Cross, a.k.a. the KFTV MC at the KFTV Watch Party, the #1 watch party for the fans, by the fans. And as you guys saw it, get your watch party tickets right now, people. We are just a couple days away from a blockbuster. Haliburton, Brunson, Madison Square Garden is the scene. You're not going to want to miss it, man. Eastern Conference Finals. And hey, if you can't get into the building, the next best thing is going to be at the KFTV Watch Party. And look, it's going to be 50s and pretty cold this week. So I know a lot of you guys have been outside. And hey, for those of you guys, go out there at the Garden Watch Party. Nothing wrong with that. We helped them promote that as well. But if you want to be inside in the cover, you get your little table, little couch, DJ Eric L. Beats on the 1s and 2s with live game audio. Then you come to the KFTV Watch Party, man. KFTVWatch.com is where you can get your tickets, or you can go to KnicksFanTV.com. Okay, who else we got here in the chat? Just a couple more announcements. We will have Game of the Week preview tomorrow. I think we're also doing Court Vision. Bailey will be here tomorrow, so we'll do Court Vision tomorrow as well. And we will do, I think the Knicks Beat is coming on. Some members of the Knicks Beat is coming on tomorrow. I think Fred Katz is already confirmed. I'm checking with our guy Ian Begley as well. So the Knick Beat Roundtable will continue for this series. We got to talk to those guys. We didn't get a chance to talk to them during the Boston series because it was pretty hectic. And, they were busy just traveling back and forth. So we didn't get a chance to tap in with them there. But we'll get that tomorrow. So I think we got 3 shows tomorrow. Game of the Week as well. Was hosted by Alex Chitaros. Okay. Zach in LA, man. Zach said those against all odds snapbacks are fire. Yes. We did have a little bit of a manufacturing delay with them, but they came in and they are fire. So make sure you guys go to KnicksFanTV shop and get your against all odds snapbacks, because those are definitely fire for sure. Is Eric in the chat? I thought I saw Eric in the chat. Shout out to Kyle Dason. Kyle, I hope you got all your merch and you're good to go. Eric is in the chat. Salute to Eric. Salute to TM. G5 Weez, I see you in here. Russell Whiskey. Salute to you. Salute to Talento as well. Wow, great convo with Kyle O'Quinn, man. That was a great conversation. Real cool guy, real humble guy. Shout out to his management team for putting this together. Because, yeah, that was a good conversation, man. Good conversation. Shout out to our guy, Kyle O. Quinn. And shout out to another one of our sponsors, man, Car Gurus. If you guys are looking for a new car, looking to sell your car, man, go to cargurus.com and let them know that the franchise sent you, man. Listen, man, with everything going on in the world today, prices are going up. Prices for parts are going up. So you want to make sure that when you make that big purchase, you should do it with confidence and not confusion. And Car Gurus helps you cut through the noise, showing you the best deals, in-depth vehicle details, so you can feel confident about your purchase. Because when it comes to your big deal, you deserve the best deal. So make sure you guys go to cargurus.com and check them out. To once again make sure that your next big deal is your best deal. So that's cargurus.com. That is cargurus.com. Buy or sell your car today. Okay. All right. So that's that, man. Once again, shout out to our sponsors. And let's get ready for a big week. I know you guys are hype about this game. I'm very hype about this game. A lot of talk. WWE's getting involved. What's going on? What they say? Haliburton's got an announcement to make. This is going to be crazy. Oh, you know what else? You know what else we're doing tomorrow? We're supposed to be doing the NBA report tomorrow with Eric and Dexter. We're doing that in the morning. So look out for that. AP says, who you got winning the Thunder Wolves series? I don't know, man. There's something about that Wolves team that I really like. Maybe it's Julius, and I just don't want to say it. Maybe it's Julius, and I just don't want to admit. But there's something about that Wolves team, man. They have that grit that I really like. Oh, Thunder are tough too. But I don't know, man. I just feel like they're waiting to kind of choke. Denver didn't have it. They pushed them to the limit, but Denver didn't have it. I think the Wolves can get this done in 7, man. I do. I think the Wolves can get this done in 7. I think Ant-Man's going to have something to say. Stifle Tower. The big ragu. I'm rooting for Minnesota to keep it playing. You know, I rock with iHeart heavy. I like Minnesota's grit, and I like Ant-Man, and I like iHeart, and I like Deontay. Yeah. So I'll go Wolves in 7, man. So. Anyway, man, great show, man. Happy to have everybody in here, all 1,000 of you. Once again, like, share, and subscribe. Remember that the show's available in audio podcast format. And salute to the replay gang. CP The Fanchise, I'm out of here. Somebody just joined the Fanchise channel members. Welcome, Lynn. And we out of here, man. Peace.